Hi, Graham.
Hi, Yuval. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Yes, not too bad. Not too bad.
Good. Good. It looks sunny out.
Well, yes, we call this a good day. It means the cloud is high.
Okay.
That's a good day for us.
We actually have a very untypical hot day for this time of the year. So,
All right, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, the
Nice.
climate's changing quite a lot. We've had the changes in Scotland now, where our summer months are wetter than the likes of February and March. You know, it used to be always around February, March, lots and lots of rain, and then the
Yeah.
summer dry periods. Whereas now you were seeing that flipping, and recently August has been the wettest month of the year.
Oh, wow.
So it's certainly changing.
Yeah. Yeah, but you can definitely feel it everywhere, like all over the planet. It's
Yeah.
yeah.
No, you're back.
Yeah. I don't know what happened. Okay, so we're waiting for Yael, and
Yeah, the keynote speaker was still going
yeah,
on, so I just jumped in just to try and check my
yeah.
video and all of that. I'm just trying to see where share screen is.
I don't see it here in
No,
this.
I don't see either. I'll
Very,
maybe
very
just
basic.
yes, I'll maybe just get you all to share it from her end.
There's nothing on this screen.
Oh, there's a chat from Hadar.
Yeah, but your video is open. It's turned on. Why did she say?
Oh, okay. Here.
I'll tell her.
Hi.
Hi, Yael.
Hi, Yuval.
בסדר.
So we have the main session. Adar, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you.
And I just wait for Adar, the organizer.
She's there in spirit. She's
Okay. And here's Jeff. So we're all here.
Hi.
Yeah.
You hear me okay?
Yes.
Perfect.
And let's see that I can share my actually your presentation. Let's work. Application window. I can see mine. Okay, so this is grams, right?
Yes, that's right. Thank you.
Okay. And I stopped sharing. And how do I go back to that? Okay. Yuval, you didn't send me anything, right?
No,
Okay.
I will speak.
Okay. Okay, Jeff, but why can I'll just try one more thing. Yeah. So this is Jeff. Mine. Okay, so I see everybody. I see that we have 16 people here, and I wonder who would give us the cue to begin. I'll ask Adar.
Hader says we can start.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So in that case, it's strange because I don't see. Oh, now I can see all the people here. So all right, let's begin. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Dr. Yael Parag. I'm the Vice Dean of the School of Sustainability at the IDC Herzliya. And I would like to welcome you all to the panel on the role of the Academia. Actually, as spoken before, we are going through fascinating times in which we are becoming more and more dependent on modern energy and in particular electricity for health, education, work, pleasure. But at the same time, the system going through a huge transformation from centralized and fossil fuel-based system to distributed and decentralized and more renewable source-based one. I think more often than not, the technological innovations are much ahead of the regulation, and so is the academia. Now, because academia want to contribute to the transition, it needs to be connected both to the policy arena, but also to the innovation arena. And this raises many challenges. So this panel hosts leading researchers from the UK and Israel who are working on the technological aspects as well as on the policy and software aspect of social sciences. And together we will try to portray the main challenges and opportunities for the academia. So I'm very pleased to welcome here Professor Graham Burt, Dr. Jeff Hardy, Dr. Yuval Beck. So the session will be divided into two parts. In the first part, each one of us will present himself shortly and highlight three main challenges for the academia. And then we will welcome questions from the audience and hopefully have a vivid discussion. So the order of presenters would be first Professor Graham Burt, followed by Yuval Beck, and then Jeff Hardy, and myself. Graham, I'll share your presentation and the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you very much, Yael. Just to check, can everyone hear me okay? Excellent, thank you very much. So my name is Graham Burt. I'm a Professor of Electrical Power Systems at the University of Strathclyde, where I direct our Institute for Energy and Environment. I'm very pleased to be able to join this interesting event and also this particular panel, because education and the academic institutions have a very important part to play in progressing the energy transition. And this slide just captures a few key elements of the progress that has been made in the UK and across some of the devolved nations of the UK, and just sets the context. Over on the left-hand side, you see a number of the commitments have been made. So UK being first major economy to pass this legal commitment to achieving net zero emissions, major step forward, achieve that by 2050. The devolved government in Scotland has similarly made that legal commitment to achieving that within 2045, reflecting the renewable resource that we have in Scotland. And indeed, the city that I work in, City of Glasgow, has made a commitment to be net zero by 2030, and seeks to be the first major city in the UK to do that. And as host of COP26, that's very high on the agenda. It's interesting to note that we have recognised that achieving that will take a whole systems approach. It's not just about electrical grids, but it takes that transport, heat, as well as grid and whole systems thinking in order to achieve that. That brings in hydrogen, that brings in gas systems, that brings a totally different perspective, and that brings new challenges for academia to contribute to. We have made significant progress. So you see a chart there, second from the left at the top, of what's been achieved in Scotland. The last reported year, 2019, we achieved nearly 90% of our electricity gross consumption achieved from renewable sources. So that significant progress has been achieved. However, we still have a long way to go in Scotland to achieve our 2030 target. You see the next slide along. That is 50% of all energy from renewable sources by 2030. So still significant challenges. And over on the right-hand side, you see some of the efforts of the Climate Change Committee in setting out those pathways by which we can achieve these commitments. So significant challenges still remain and require full engagement of the academic community. But how can that be achieved? There's a number of charts down below that show some of the areas where we are supporting that transition across onshore grid, offshore grid transition, relating to charging networks, not only for road vehicles, but also for drones. Trains, achieving hydrogen-powered trains to reach those hard-to-reach transport connections. Seeing offshore networks, supporting oil and gas transition, supporting EVs, supporting new market arrangements with companies like Samsung and Octopus Energy. Academics and academic community, together with our respective resources, are able to drive that forward and drive that forward at pace. But how do we do that? Three quick areas that I would bring to this panel discussion. One is we need very close collaboration between government, industry, and academia. We need good structures. That will take collaborative centres and academics to step up and be willing to contribute evidence to the policy makers and to provide scenario support, evaluation of options, all of those things, helping that transition into policy and also that transition of new business models and adoption beyond demonstrator projects into business as usual. The open energy market in the UK is ideal for this because you will see lots of data being published and being available for new entrants, new solution providers to understand what the opportunities are. So ideally in the UK market, there's a great wealth of resources that academics and startups, spin-outs, etc., can all tap into and utilise. The advances can be achieved through effective academic collaboration. So not just single academic institutions, but the academic community coming together. And that's been achieved in the UK. at a time through the early 90s where energy wasn't a hot topic, we innovated and we got government funding and worked together as a community, put aside some of the competitive spirit and worked together to help support the capacity building effort that was required in order to bring the new academics, the new young researchers, the top talent into this area, and that's been achieved. And now we have a very open structure with sharing of data and sharing of laboratory access. So we have projects like EriGrid 2, where people can come in from around the world and use our laboratories for maybe 2 weeks of testing to demonstrate that capability. So that open access of data, models, and laboratory access is critical. Some of the examples are on the screen there. And lastly, innovative methodologies. As we bring the systems thinking into place, as we start to drive that last 10% of change, that brings new challenges. That leads new ways to prove these innovative solutions. And we have facilities such as the Power Networks Demonstration Centre, which is able to prove these systems solutions, through a cyber physical platform, where we bring markets together with technologies, together with business models, together with living labs, together in an integrated systems proving methodology. And we're seeing new entrants coming in, testing their ideas, evaluating their ideas in an environment that allows us to look at grid of 2030, allows us to look at grid conditions of 2040, allows us to look at grid conditions of 2050. So these innovative methodologies, cyber physical modeling together with hardware, allows us to do that. And I commend that to you as an approach to see these advances being made and being able to be adopted early with low regrets and confidence that it will be resilient for the future system operation. I look forward to questions as we go through the rest of the panel. Thank you.
Okay.
Val, please present yourself.
So thank you. No, I don't have a presentation, but I can speak freely. First of all, thank you, and really honored to be in this event and to be with my distinguished colleagues here. I think it's a very good event. Also, since as the title says, we like England and the UK and Israel are basically two islands. So it actually join a lot of topics that we can collaborate in and we feel, from what I heard from Graham before, so we have a lot of things that we are in common in the way we think. I'm now at the Tel Aviv University. I'm one of the lecturers in power systems in Tel Aviv University. I'm saying a little bit about my career because I feel that this topic of academia and academia and industry is something that is following the way I seen my career going through the times that I was a student learning power systems with something like 10 to 15 students in a class, until today that we're teaching classes that are over 60 to 100, which shows that there is a big wake-up call in this field. And on one hand, we have a lot of students. On the other hand, I think that the role of academia in the way we teach the students and what's the skills that they need to know still have some way to go. So I wanted to raise a few, I don't know if it's questions or topics that needs to be thought about. I'm sure in Israel and in other countries and definitely the UK, we can give a few ideas to each other, and I think that eventually the forces of the market will give their mark here. So first of all, the question I will divide it to two parts. One is the how we train the students, and the second one is the role of us as researchers with the industry. So me myself, I'll start with the research. I'm collaborating with the high-tech companies, with startups, and this is something that I think 15 years ago I wouldn't be able to do because there wasn't enough big industry that I can contribute from my knowledge to the new companies. The main difficulties that we have, first of all, I would say that if I collaborate with startups, it's easier because mainly all startups are based on software, and the playing ground, the laboratories are more established, especially in Israel. In the other part, when I do some research regarding the electric system in Israel, there we have a bigger problem with the collaboration, like from the local electric system. We have a lack of laboratories in Israel, and I think in that aspect we can find ways of collaborating with our UK friends and do some more like laboratory and research joining to get ahead of those problems that we're facing here in Israel. And on the other hand, I want to put the last 2 minutes or 1 minute that I have is actually go to the students, because I think that the way we teach today, it's basically the courses I'm teaching today, I was taught 25 years ago. And on one hand, we need to know the electric system as it is, and we teach, and the basics are very important, but there's so much going on. And in some way, I myself feel that we're not going in the right pace with the students, because the industry requires today, my field is electrical engineers that are more interdisciplinary, like that they learn some more topics that are more than just know how an electric system works. There is a lot of work about regulation, business, technologies, new technologies, renewable. All these things are coming in very, very little tips in the curriculum of the university, and I think there needs to be a change. The bright side, I would say, is that I can see in the last few years that the industry is actually waking up and really wants to contribute in a way that they are willing to come and to give students some opportunities to start their work in early stages of their studying, to make them understand that there is actually a very interesting field, because the field of power systems was for many years was very neglected, and there is so many new topics that coming in the last few years, and the industry is acknowledging that, and I think in that aspect we see a growth, but in my opinion it should be bigger, faster, and better. So I think I'll stop now, and I'll be happy to answer questions.
Thank you, Yuval. Jeff, I'll move now to your presentation, and please.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Yael. Again, and it genuinely is a pleasure and an honor to be here today. And I really did enjoy hearing Robert Llewellyn speak. I'm a big Red Dwarf fan from the UK, so it's no surprise at all that I enjoyed that very much. So I wanted to introduce just quickly a consortium that I'm involved in the UK. Firstly, I should say that my day job is as a senior research fellow in the Grantham Institute at Imperial College London. And I can only agree with the comments that both Graham and Yuval have said about the need for interdisciplinary research. And I am myself an interdisciplinary researcher, I think, because my background is chemistry. You know, I did sustainable chemistry back at the University of York a long time ago. And nowadays, I think I would be best described as a social scientist working in energy research. So it's been a long transition for me, but always with a sustainability angle. And I think there's a lot of need for people doing working in interdisciplinary teams, but also working interdisciplinary themselves as well. So I said I'd talk about this Energy Revolution Research Consortium. So the reason why I'm talking about this a little bit is because I think it's a good example about academic and business and other collaboration that I think is going to be increasingly important in the future. So this research consortium that I'm involved in is part of the UK government's Industrial Strategy Challenge Fund. So it's part of their industrial strategy, and it's in something called Prospering from the Energy Revolution. And the purpose of that is about delivering smart local energy systems in the UK, because we see decentralized energy plus electric vehicles plus zero carbon heating as the absolute pillars of getting to net zero, along with lots of other things. So this was a strategic investment, £100 million worth of taxpayers' money, plus lots of money from business as well. So perhaps 100 extra million, 200 extra million, depending on how you count it. And what it's done is it's trying to demonstrate what the future of these smart local energy systems is in real places today. So what does a net zero energy system look like today? So these are done in real places with real people, with real business models, with real technologies. And my consortium has got the absolute privilege of working in the heart of that. So we do systemic research and analysis, thinking about what these projects require and what they're going to need in the future. We inform some of their future plans by helping them with things like delivery and scaling up, scaling out, that kind of thing. And we integrate the knowledge from global activity. So what is happening elsewhere? What does it mean for these sorts of projects trying to do things in the UK now? If you can just skip on to the next slide, Yale. And then we can get rid of the presentation when I'm finished with that one. So the actual Energy Rev consortium itself is basically this sort of interdisciplinary consortium. So we are 32 co-investigators, 22 universities up and down the UK, including Strathclyde, I should say. And it's all about exploring these challenges about smart local energy systems from this interdisciplinary and whole systems perspective. We've heard about both of those already. And we look at it from all sorts of perspectives, you know, the data angle, the AI angle, artificial intelligence angles, the business models, the finance, the investability, institutions, what governance are we going to need? That's the bit I lead. What about the end users, the consumers, this whole systems perspective, and also what does it all mean for this relationship between energy and the environment? So I hope you can see that that's the sort of consortium I think we're going to need to see more of as we really try and accelerate this transition. So as everyone else is challenged, I'm going to make three really quick points, and I really hope there's some good questions coming from you folks who've agreed to give your time to this session. So my first point is I think we need more of this real world engagement between academics and zero carbon energy systems projects. So Energy Rev is one of these examples where it's embedded in a strategic project. And I think the reason why it's a good thing is it opens the eyes of academics to these real world issues, such as the pace of change in these projects and what happens when you get a massive pivot when something doesn't work and you have to change direction. But it also gives insight into how people actually interact with these technologies and novel business models, which isn't always how you might expect. And that's where the learning is really important. The second thing I think we're missing in this space, and it might even be something we collaborate on together with Israel, for example, is living spaces, living laboratories where you can do research, innovation, where businesses can play and policymakers can learn. So these are basically things like living labs where homes are signed up, you know, to be open to being offered novel energy tariffs, trialing new equipment, for example, you know, learning about how all of those interact with each other. You know, so you might be able to, for example, as a business and as an academic community, understand how new equipment like net zero heating is used in home, how these new tariffs that might be around from energy suppliers influence behaviors, what it means for things like consumer protection, and what it means as an implication for the value your business can create. It's going to be viable. What's a good proposition? The final point I'm going to make is that I think there's a real opportunity for us as researchers to work much more closely with policymakers to better align research to strategic challenges. So as an example, within Energy Rev, we've been working directly with the Department of Business, Energy and Industrial Strategy. You heard from Adam earlier. and we've been working with them on the development of their smart systems and flexibility plan. So that's helped us as researchers understand where our research can have an impact and help with policy development, but it's also helped us have a conversation about future research questions like zero carbon flexibility market design, that kind of thing. So I'm going to stop there because I'm dying to get into a discussion, but thank you for listening.
Thank you, Jeff. So I'll present my 4 questions, and I agree with all what I heard here before. Okay, so I'll just say that I'm a social scientist. I'm working on what we call softer aspects of energy. It's not about the technology. It's not about the wires, but rather the users and the governance and these sort of questions. In particular, I'm interested in future markets, so how the future energy system will look like, with a lot of electrified heating and electrified transport. Who will participate? Who would be the actors? And the roles of consumers, or what I say, what used to be only demand side, which changing its role, how these actors would be, how they will engage in the new system, and what would be their possible contribution. So I'll share my screen to my presentation, which I have the questions, so I won't forget them. Here it is. Okay. I hope you can see my screen because I don't see anything. So my starting point is that energy systems are interdisciplinary and socio-techno-economic by nature. This means that look at the energy system only from one perspective is misleading and will likely to result in something which fits maybe to one discipline, but as a system, and we heard about Grant telling us about a system thinking. As a system, we need to adopt broader point of view. So the first challenge that I would like to raise is how to establish an inter and cross-disciplinary, long-lasting collaboration within the academia. So within the academia, social sciences, hard sciences, engineers, etc., psychologists, but also between academia and industry, and between academia and government. So we need to have these 3 arms, which keeps us in reality, help us both learn, observe and learn the system, but also contribute it and pushing it further. The second challenge, which again was said in different words, but I think it's important to say it again, so is exposing social scientists to the energy system, the energy language, the energy principles, etc. Often, social scientists are becoming familiar with the energy system just when they get into practice. And they are overwhelmed with the language, the scientific language, the principles, the terminology. And I think that this should be incorporated into the curriculum of social scientists who are working on real-life problems. At the same time, what was already mentioned by Yuval, we need to expose energy engineers to insight from social science about soft yet crucial aspects of the energy system. For instance, just with one example, we have very good generation technology like wind turbines, but often the barrier for implementing them has nothing to do with the engineering aspect, but with the people who need to accept the technology in their backyard. So here, a good collaboration between social scientists and hard scientists would probably result in better understanding the barriers, but also identifying the opportunities. So both disciplines need to at least have some sort of shared language to discuss the problem. And another challenge is that in advance, and this is mostly relevant to the policymakers, is identifying new threats and challenges to energy security, energy affordability, energy sustainability, which are posed by the evolving low carbon and decentralized energy systems. So currently we have a very particular type of system. We know that it will look differently in 30 years, and we would like to avoid negative externalities, negative environmental externalities, we would like it to be affordable. So questions such as, what is that energy poverty? How would energy poverty look like in future systems? And how can we prevent it in advance and put some measurements that will likely prevent it, are important aspects and questions that policy is that academia should investigate, and the input should be incorporated both to the policymakers, but also to the people who would like to innovate in the system, because many of the innovations are not necessarily technological, but rather social innovation. So with that, I'll finish, and I'll open the floor for questions. I think we have few short time to have some questions for from the audience, and you have to ask it in a chat. So there is no option here to go live. So yeah, please don't be shy. Write your question. And while we're having some question, maybe I would like to raise something. So I heard that probably Yuval too. We are very envying the money that poured in the UK to investigate energy systems, and also to promote collaboration between the different different disciplines. And I would like to ask you, Graham and Jeff, what do you think could you learn from Israel? What are the things that seems to you worth adopting from here?
If I start off, I think the entrepreneurial spirit within Israel, I think is something that many people recognise. I've seen, for instance, in the banking sector, quite a number of Israeli tech companies coming across and supporting some of the innovation in the banking sector. So I personally feel that combination of the entrepreneurial spirit and activity in Israel, with new startups, enthusiasm for new startups, combined with that open environment, that open energy marketplace in the UK, is a great combination. With that that opportunity for open data, as I've said, open laboratories, such as through programs like ERIGRID 2, that opportunity for academic collaboration, that opportunity for startups to come and test technologies in realistic proving grounds like PNDC, I think is really a great platform for our two countries working together. Because we have this open market, our system operator is looking beyond itself for system services. Now, those system services can come from a plethora of different agencies and through different platforms. So for me, that opportunity for innovative newcos in the energy space to come in and prove what they can do within a partially decarbonised and rapidly decarbonising energy system, I don't think there's anywhere better than in the UK for that. We are an island system. We are facing challenges earlier than others, such as inertia, such as, for instance, black start. So black start is a new it's well established, but the system operator is looking for, how do we source that from local energy systems, from distributed energy? How do the new technologies support those fundamental system requirements? So for me, that's one of the areas where we can play to our respective strengths. Jeff?
Yeah, just I agree completely, Graham. I think I was just going to raise a couple of specific things as well. We heard when we were talking with Yuval in the lead up to this that there is a great deal of expertise on data, artificial intelligence, really interesting approaches, not just in the energy sector, but across the piece coming out of Israel. I saw that firsthand when I was in New Zealand. One of the network companies that adopted an Israeli-based data platform and technology for running their grid. You know, it's kind of like that sort of thing that was given that really unique insight, and that's where they were coming. I also absolutely love the example that Robert Llewellyn was giving earlier about the kind of like the electric vehicle platform on which anyone can build a car. You know, that sort of business model where it's kind of like it's agnostic about who's buying the thing. What you're getting is the best thing to put your labeled car on top of. You know, that is fantastic. That's exactly the sort of business model innovation that we really need going forward. So it's you know, it feels like there's a really rich area for collaboration between the UK and Israel.
Thank you. There is one question from the audience, but before that, I would just like to ask Yuval, if you could, if you had a wish list, what you would like to do as a research in the academia to promote maybe the transition to the system, what do you think is most missing? What would be on the top of your list?
I think at the moment is more access to data, like real data, because most of our research now, in many of the researches that we do, is based on known, like worldly known data, which is static data that even that is sometimes very hard to get. So more access to like we said before, like real life laboratories and real life, let's say, networks that will have some database that collects data for this type of research in various conditions, like with renewable energy, with the electric cars. And I know in Europe there are some laboratories that can provide that, but we don't seem to sometimes have the access to that data without a lot of effort to get that. So I would say that that's the top of my list in that aspect.
Thank you, Yuval. And now again for the for our UK guests. There is a question here from the audience. How are UK universities put a focus on utilizing technologies to advance the research? So, please.
So if I start that one off, it's a range of different ways. So with the funding platforms that are available in the UK, we are supporting companies with concepts, so early stage, low TRL. We are supporting companies with more of that innovation in the mid TRL, and we are supporting companies up at the mature end and post-mortem type work as well, post deployment, supporting demonstration projects. So that range of tools and methods and models that we have in UK academia allows us to be supporting at each of these stages. Sometimes we need to take a lead and we need to spin out a company where there's a gap in the market. Sometimes we'll do that with partners. So for instance, at Strathclyde, there was an innovation project back 20 years ago with one of the islands where there was a growing opportunity for wind integration. The grid couldn't cope with it, and it required some active network management in order to accommodate increased harvesting of the wind resource on those islands. And as a result of the innovation that some of my colleagues at Strathclyde were involved in, that then led on to a spin-out company being created, and that company, Smarter Grid Solutions, now has offices that include London, where they're rolling that technology out around the world and have business across the globe, all the way to Australia and New Zealand. So that role is sometimes in partnership, but sometimes we need to take the step ourselves and have the confidence in the innovation that we're producing and say we need to take this into the marketplace ourselves and create that new entrant.
Jeff, would you like to reply to these questions?
Yeah, it's just a quick one as well on top of that, because I think that there was two things I thought of when I read that question. So one was some of the shared research facilities that can be used by industry, by other players in the UK. So Graham talked about a great facility they have up at Strathclyde. There's other facilities around. There's one at Imperial College, etc., where you can test some of these novel technologies that are going to be going onto the grid. But those are potential open collaborations with research as well. So there's lots of learning potential from that. The other thing is the increasing range of other technologies that enable energy researchers to do their work in universities. So things like high performance computing facilities, lots of kind of like different techniques, say artificial intelligence, machine learning, etc., that comes from other bits of the university and then gets brought into energy. So we're also using, if you like, technology to further energy research to places we probably couldn't have gone with like traditional kind of like approaches in the past as well. So I think it's a really exciting area, and it feels like everything's starting to converge into this big massive research and research business, civil society, all sort of coming together in some really exciting projects at the moment.
I think also, Jeff, just adding in there, that business side, the commercial side, is how to exploit the technology. What's the value add that technology brings? We need to think more broadly in an integrated energy system. And I think that brings in the specialisms that we have across this panel, and I'm sure across the audience as well. And some of the pilots, pilot demonstrators that Energy Rev is supporting are exemplars of that.
Thank you very much. I've been asked by Ada. She told me that we have to close this session because now there is a networking event and the expo. So and here Eshel joined just for the closing remarks.
Even though Adar is on the chat, I was on a different session, but I'm using my admin access to bump into your chat. Jeremy, Yuval, Jeffrey, Ael, I heard you had an amazing session. I heard the last 3 sentences, and the first thing I'm going to do is to quickly see the recording because I definitely have a lot to learn. Personally speaking, I think
Eshel disappeared. He probably would like to thank us, but I think that I made some technical problems. So I don't know, Jeff, if you saw your presentation, the 2 slides of your presentation. I didn't see anything. So hopefully I did not make a mess of your talk.
No, not at all. Don't worry. It's all fine.
Well, I don't know if we should wait for Eshel or we should just say thank you for the audience. And thank you, Jeff, Graham, and Yuval for participating in the session. I would really like to take this forward and actually establish a collaboration between the UK and Israel, a fruitful one that takes lessons, learn lessons, and also generate new knowledge and new insight that will be used beyond Israel and the UK. And with that said, I'll say thank you and goodbye, and everybody is welcome to join the networking event and visit the booth. Thank you.
May we meet after COVID?
Yes,
yes,
please.
Actually, we were just saying goodbye, and if you want to say
definitely. We began the event with a technical problem. We finished it with a technical problem, but the most important thing is the content. So guys, just thank you very much, and I hope to meet you in the networking session. Cheers.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye. Thank you, everybody.
Nice to meet you, Yuval. Bye all.
Bye.
You too. Bye-bye.